Learn with Tofik.
Hi Axel, my name's Tofik and I am from London. I wanted to know about how you learned English. What did you do and what was your motivation?
I've been learning English for 15 years. I started when I was 12. I had no motivation at all at first because English always sounded like a strange language to me. Maybe I had not much contact with the nice sound of the language. Those people on airplanes talking really slow with that strange voice. So English was always a strange language to me. I'd rather learn any other language. But then there was this song that I heard for the first time and I fell in love with it. And after that, I believe that I should understand English just to understand that song. So that's how everything started, at least for me.
Thank you for sharing that. So for you, it was a something that affected your emotions, I suppose, because you understood the feelings of the song without understanding the words, and so it captured your imagination.
That's exactly what happened. After I decided that I needed to learn English in order to understand better what was said in that song, I waited for the next vacation. I think it was summer break, and I got one of the old books that I had because I had a notebook about English grammar, but I had never read it. So that summer I read it through from beginning to end, and I couldn't understand much. You know, I'm Brazilian, so Portuguese and English are not so similar. But that was the beginning. And for the next years, I was trying to refine.
Which different methods did you use to learn English?
As I was really young, I had no method for some time. I had never taken a formal English course. All that I had was English classes at school, but it was not directed to those that really wanted to learn the language. That was just the basics, like verb to be and simple present and all the simple tenses. Rarely the perfect tenses or anything beyond that. So for many years I was lost. All that I had was my motivation.
When did you first start to speak English?
As I had no method, I was so lost in English that I was only trying to understand grammar and texts. I was never talking to anyone. Actually, I had no one to talk to. It was just after 5 or 6 years that an American tourist was here for vacation and we started talking. And that was the first time that I could realize that it's really different. There is this thing called reading. And there's also this thing called communication. Sometimes you can read, but you just can't communicate. That was the moment that I saw that I needed to take a step further. So that's when I started talking to people, mainly tourists.
That's really interesting. And what was the effect when you started talking to tourists? What was the effect on your learning?
I was completely confused because all those complex verb tenses that I had learned, they were almost always worthless. I'm not saying they're always worthless, but for most time, people wouldn't just understand me or think that I was just too formal. That changed me drastically because I decided to take a different turn of English. That's when I saw the importance of learning phonetics, and then I decided to learn reductions and dialects and slangs. Up to this point, my English was too formal. I was only reading, and I knew nothing about slangs and idioms and things like that.
So it was a kind of journey for you because in the beginning you had little motivation. I suppose you went to school and you were learning because they told you to learn at school. Later, there's a song you enjoyed and you wanted to understand the meaning. After this, you met a tourist and you found it interesting to communicate. And then you evolved your learning and you went from a more theoretical approach to a more practical approach. Finally, Axel, can you just give 3 pieces of advice for people who want to learn English?
You are right. I had no motivation learning English just based on the English classes that I had at school. It was that song that moved me somehow. Now, concerning the advice, you need to have motivation. If you don't have it, if you say that you don't like English, you get nowhere. You have to love it. Even if you get frustrated, you have to keep trying. There are those days that you feel like you don't know English at all. But guess what? There are those other days when you speak so well, you even forget your native language. Don't get run down just because you're having a hard time. So my first advice is motivation. That's the building block. You must have motivation. Now, the second advice is always look for the best teacher, the best book. I'm not telling you that you have to compare people. People are different. They have different approaches, different methods. But always try to go beyond what is comfortable for you. Even if you find such a good teacher, he's like one of the best that you know, you can't understand anything that he says, keep trying, because you can rely on him or her, because he's one of the best. If you look for an intermediate or a beginner in English in order to exchange, it's like 2 blind people trying to tell each other, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. So always look for the best, even if you can't understand what they say. And the third and final advice is, you're never good. Maybe you believe you are good because you have taken this or that test in English, or maybe because someone said, hey, your accent is great, your grammar is great. That's okay. You can be happy with that. But you can never be satisfied. There's always something else to learn. Even if you communicate, even if you live abroad, even if everyone understands you, there's always something else to learn. So there's no such thing like, I'm the master in English, I'm proficient. There's no such thing. You gotta be always trying and learning new idioms, new grammar rules, new slangs, new intonation patterns. There's always something new.
Thank you very, very much. That was really, really useful, and I hope lots of people can benefit from this.